Good. Connect.
Hi, Becky.
Hello.
Erica and Justin from WSP.
Yeah.
Hello,
And
everybody.
we do have an attendee who's joining on Zoom, but we also have some folks that are joining on the public input site using the call-in. And we also have people who are viewing on the meeting page on the project website as well. So just going to do sorry, just getting a couple things set up. All right. Stephanie, why don't I give it over to you for an introduction from the county, and then I will share my presentation and we will take over and get moving.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Justin. So my name is Stephanie Lee-Sevon. Oh, sorry, just 1 second. I think there's someone that's trying to attend here. Sorry, if we can just pause for 1 second. I just need to, got an email from someone here. Okay, hopefully that works. I'll maybe just proceed and then check in with that individual as we go on. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining. The county is and has started an age-friendly community strategy and action plan, and is primarily funded through the province of Ontario. We've consulted or hired contracted WSP teams. So we have Justin Jones and Erica Stone here today. And as well with the county, we have Becky Hillier. And so we're just at the early stages of this project. And today we will be going through a visioning workshop. And so trying to, first off, go through what is an age-friendly community, what does that mean? And then translate that to a Grey County context. And so for primarily this workshop, Justin will be leading the consultation efforts. And we will be making sure we connect with everyone throughout. So yeah, with that, I'll pass it off to Justin.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Stephanie. We're so pleased to be here tonight with members of the Grey County community. So my name is Justin Jones. I will be your facilitator for this evening. I am coming to you from the traditional lands of the Hurons of the Wendat, Saugeen of the Ojibwe, and the Haudenosaunee people. And I am in the land that's now known as Collingwood. We are all engaged in a process of reconciliation in this country, and it is our duty as settlers to acknowledge the generations of people who came before us to this land and to thank them for their contributions and to continue to work with them to ensure that this land is viable for generations that follow. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here to speak with all of you today. I'm just going to turn my screen share on, and then we will proceed with our event here. There. Okay, are we seeing it?
Yep.
Yes, okay, good. I'm just going to move over my admin panel over here so that I can see everything that's going on. Okay, fantastic. So first, I want to recognize that this project is primarily funded by the Government of Ontario and their Inclusive Community Grants. This is an important process that we're undertaking to move forward with building a more age-friendly Grey County. And so throughout the course of this visioning workshop, we're going to talk about what it means to be an age-friendly community, and we're going to look to you as folks that are participating in this call to help us guide this process as it moves forward. There we go. So if you're on the Zoom, please feel free to raise your hand if you would like to ask a question. If you are on the public input call-in section, you can also unmute yourself. I believe I have given everyone the power to unmute if you raise your hand. I think it told you when you first called in how to do that. This is our first go round with this one. So we do have some folks that are connected through the phone bridge, and we have some people that are joining us on the Zoom. So yeah, you please keep your camera off. Note that this session is being recorded. So anything that you say will be available afterwards. So if you would prefer to type in your messages, please feel free to do so either on the chat or in the public input. And you can also use your, if you're connected to the phone bridge, you can also add a voicemail message and it will be automatically transcribed for the project team and we can view it. So just going over the purpose of the workshop we're just going to tell you a little bit about why we're here, what we're going to do, introducing the project team. And then we're going to tell you a little bit about what an age-friendly community is, why we should be planning for an age-friendly community, and we'll outline the work performed to date and talk about some of the key project timelines. We'll then get into a bit of a group activity and we will close it up at the very end. We've got some interactivity planned for this evening. So the purpose of this workshop is really to just present the background information and the work that we've already been doing as a team to begin to develop the age-friendly strategy and action plan, and then to develop a draft vision statement. So we would like to really set the table for how the project is going to move forward as the age-friendly community strategy and action plan continues to move ahead. So the project team from the county side, you've already met Stephanie. She is the project lead on this, and she's really been helping out at every stage of this project. And there's also Scott Taylor, who's a planner with the county, and Randy Scherzer, who's the director of planning and development. From our side over here at WSP, we have Nadia DeSanti. She is the project manager. Unfortunately, she's not feeling well and was unable to be here this evening. So I am filling in her stead. I'm Justin Jones. I'm the engagement lead for this project. We also have Erica Stone, who's the engagement support for this project, and she's also on the call. And then our colleagues who've been doing the background review and the policy assessment are Anita Sott and Will Lamont. And they are unable to join. They're not joining us this evening. They're more in the policy world. So talking about the project timeline and where we're at and where we're going. So the project right now is really looking at developing an age-friendly community strategy. And then once we've done that strategy, then we move on to talking about the action plan. So if you think about the way that these two pieces interrelate, the strategy is sort of like the overall direction, and the action plan is the specifics of how you get there. So to think about it in kind of an analogy, the strategy would be knowing that you want to go from, let's say, Thornbury to Owen Sound. The action plan would be the turn-by-turn directions that you would take to get there. So it gets down to that level of granularity compared to the high-level overview, which is the strategy part of our process. So we are currently in the phase where we are developing the strategy for this age-friendly community action plan. So far, we have presented our project to County Council. We've provided them with an update of what's going on. We've convened a stakeholder committee and hosted our first set of meetings. We've undertaken a thorough background review, including policies and documents from all levels of government in Grey County. We've undertaken some key stakeholder interviews, talking to folks who have a large role within the age-friendly dimensions. And then we've developed a web page, and you can find that at grey.ca/age-friendly. And that's a really great resource to keep up to date in terms of where we are at and where we are going. That page will be your primary source of information for this project as it continues to move forward. In terms of our stakeholder committee, we have a number of different folks that are participating in that. We have county staff from the communications department, business enterprise center, the long-term care facilities, the local immigration partnership, and transportation departments. But then we also have a large number of community organizations that are working at the county level. And that's the important part, is that we are really looking at this project with our stakeholder committee at agencies and organizations that are working at the county level, and really working to move forward with the age-friendly dimensions as we are trying to move those forward with this project. So we have the Accessibility Advisory Committee, Alzheimer's Society Grey Bruce, Canadian Mental Health Association, Georgian College, Grey Bruce Council on Aging, YMCA, and more. And those are all represented because we want to make sure that as we move this project forward, that we are connecting with those key hubs of information and distributing that information out among the various groups that those folks have contact with on a regular basis. So what is an age-friendly community? An age-friendly community is, as defined by the World Health Organization, it's a community that encourages active aging by optimizing opportunities for health, participation, and security in order to enhance quality of life as people age. So this is a specific definition that's been created by the World Health Organization that helps to set the stage for what an age-friendly community strategy and action plan looks like. So we really want to think about what our communities look like as we age and about how they're welcoming to people of all ages and abilities. We're planning for an age-friendly community because Grey County, like much of our population here in Canada, is continuing to age. The 65 plus population will soon be the largest population group if current trends continue. And there is a need to support and retain youth and young families in Grey County, in addition to making sure that the infrastructure and programs and policies that are put in place in the county support those who already live, work, and play in the county so that they can age in place and stay there through all stages of their life. In response to the aging demographics of the province of Ontario, the province has released an age-friendly community guide for municipalities and community organizations. This is a really wonderful resource for municipalities because it outlines a step-by-step process to create an effective age-friendly community strategy and action plan. And it really does form the foundations of what we're going to be doing with this project. It focuses on breaking down barriers within the built environment, on helping governments lead by example in becoming more inclusive and age-friendly, on increasing participation in the economy for people with disabilities, on improving understanding and awareness about accessibility, And it really does provide a process for the development of age-friendly plans. So I encourage all of you that are joining us this evening to go and take a look at that guide. If you like reading government-produced documents in your spare time, like I do, then I invite you to go and take a look at it. But it really is a great resource, and it does provide a vision for a more inclusive Ontario in the future. And I do think it's a wonderful forward-looking document. So the age-friendly planning process, as outlined within that document, is put here on the screen. So there are 4 primary steps. So the first step of the age-friendly process is to define local principles. The second step is to assess needs. The third step is to develop an action plan. And then the fourth step is to implement. And the image that's on the screen is a circle because it shows that this process doesn't end as you move into the implementation phase. As you begin to implement, you continue to evaluate, to monitor, and to work to sustain the progress that is going. So it really is important that as we're developing this plan, we understand that this is meant to be a living document. It's meant to be something that is revisited, that is revised, and that is updated in accordance with the needs of the community. So we are creating a document that will outline a vision for the future for Grey County in terms of becoming more age-friendly, but it's not the ultimate document in terms of how the county can move forward with age-friendly policies and projects. And so it really is up to the community to continue to refer back to this document, to check the assumptions, and to assure that the way that the county and their partners are moving forward meet the needs as they evolve within their communities. The age-friendly communities process is made up of 8 different dimensions. So the dimensions are displayed here on this slide, and I'll just quickly go through them, but just to highlight that the age-friendly communities process really does touch on every aspect of life. So the 8 dimensions are transportation, outdoor spaces and buildings, community support and health services, communication and information, civic participation and employment, respect and social inclusion, social participation, and housing. And so each of these 8 dimensions has a key role to play in people's physical and mental health as they age. It involves people's access to the amenities within their community. It involves the way that they feel comforted and welcomed by the other members of their community. It's the way that they feel accommodated and valued in how they provide their feedback and their input in municipal processes. And so it really does encompass a holistic view of how we plan our communities. It encourages us to not take a siloed, single focused view of how we are developing and what we aim to do in our communities, and instead to work towards a future where people of all ages feel welcomed and valued in their communities. So I'm going to go through each of the 8 dimensions in just a tiny bit of detail, just to provide everyone a little bit more of an idea of what is meant with each of these dimensions. So when it comes to outdoor spaces and buildings, the WHO's definition is the condition, quality, and design of the physical environment, including parks, sidewalks, and buildings, that has a significant influence on the mobility, independence, and quality of life of residents. So when it comes down to how this impacts our communities, when we design buildings with steps up to get into restaurants, that single step might as well be a giant wall to someone with a mobility impairment. When we design our streetscapes without urban braille and without consideration for people with vision impairments, we are not making them feel safe and secure and welcome in those public spaces. When we design streetscapes without trees for cooling and shade, we make it so that people who are more vulnerable to heat impacts are not able to be outside. When we design public spaces and buildings with washrooms that are not accessible, we make it so that young families who, if you have small kids like I do, you know that they have to pee every 45 minutes, can't go further than a few blocks afield of their home. So it's very important, if we want to make people feel welcomed and included, that our outdoor spaces and buildings meet those needs. And it's the same when it comes to transportation. The WHO defines it that the availability of accessible transportation options aids in the ability of aging residents and those without easy access to private transportation to participate in the community and increases access to community and health services. The average North American outlives their ability to drive by 10 years. That is a statistic that we all need to bear in mind when we are designing our transportation systems within our communities, is that the final 10 years of our life, it is likely that we would not be medically able to use a private automobile. So do we rely on friends for rides? Do we have those friends? Do we have family available? Is public transportation available? Are we able to access safe walking or cycling trails? If we are using a mobility device, are the sidewalks outside of our homes smooth without cracks? Are there too many stairs for us to get where we want to go? These are the kinds of things when it comes to transportation that really do impact how people are able to access their community as they age. Housing, of course, housing is a major challenge currently in Canada and in many places around the world. Appropriate housing structure, location, design, and wide variety of available housing choices can have a significant impact on the independence of all residents. As residents age out of their single-family homes, out of the townhouse that they've been living in, out of the single-family home, are there assisted living facilities? Are there single level homes for them to move into where everything is accessible without stairs? Are there spaces that make sense for people as they move in between being fully independent and able to care for themselves in their own home and needing more dedicated care? Are there those in-between housing options? Are there options for young families, for single people, for people with disabilities, for people on fixed incomes? How housing is available impacts every aspect of life. And so it really is important as we move forward with this plan to consider that. Social participation, the ability and opportunity to actively participate in social, cultural, and recreational pursuits has a positive influence on the physical and mental well-being of all residents. This one I've been really interested in as the pandemic has worn on. One of the things that has been shown is that social isolation actually manifests itself in physical ways in the human body. People that are socially isolated for long periods of time experience a reduction in physical size of their hippocampus, and that's the part of the brain that is responsible for memory, for long and short-term memory. And so as your hippocampus shrinks through social isolation, people lose mental acuity and further deteriorate in their aging years. And so it's very important that we maintain social participation and access to those kinds of connections that are so vital for our mental health, because our mental health is intimately linked to our physical health. I just realized I was not recording, and I'm going to turn recording back on. My apologies. I am so sorry. That was a mistake on my part, but we do have the audio, so we will be okay. So the remaining dimensions are communication and information. So access to the wide distribution of clear, relevant information. And that's really essential for residents to be able to maintain strong social ties and community connections. So how is information distributed? If it's just tweeted out or sent out by Facebook, you're missing a large segment of your population. If you just publish it in the newspaper, you're missing a large segment of your population. If you're just putting it out on the radio, you're missing a large segment of your population. Our entire approach with this project is to connect with the connectors. It is to build on the networks of social participation that have already been built in Grey County and to extend those relationships outward so that the people who know people can tell them about this project and tell them about the pieces that are coming down the pipe as it gets implemented. The next dimension is respect and social inclusion. Aging residents and residents with disabilities should continue to be respected for the roles and contributions to their communities. The provision of outreach to residents with limited mobility and opportunities to participate in community life can help to mitigate isolation. So how are we working with people as they age, or people with disabilities, or people with different abilities, to ensure that they are able to contribute in a meaningful way to their community? How are we giving people purpose? How are we valuing the contributions that people make? Because when we look to people with disabilities, when we look to people with different abilities, what we find is that when we listen to those kinds of individuals, when we listen to people who are not necessarily the kind of standard able-bodied person, we see that we can actually create a much more inclusive society, and a society that's more inclusive is a society that's better for everyone. Because as we break down barriers, we open up opportunities for participation, we create opportunities for all to be more meaningfully engaged and have more participation. And that speaks much to civic participation and employment as well, where aging residents offer a variety of skills, knowledge, and experience that can provide benefits to the community and mentorship opportunities for young people. Residents should be able to contribute to their communities through paid and unpaid employment for as long as they would like to, or are able to do so. So are we creating opportunities for volunteerism in our community, for meaningful contributions as people decide to retire? Do we have employment for people as they age? Is there opportunities for people to continue to work even into their retirement age? And then the final dimension is community supports and health services. So the community should offer sufficient, good quality healthcare and community programs and services that are accessible to all residents. Doing this will allow residents in the community to receive appropriate care. So with regards to our communities here in Grey County, are there physicians available? Is there a good mix of healthcare providers and healthcare assistants available in the community to ensure that people can stay in their home for as long as they can, and to ensure that when they do have to leave their home, that they have access to adequate medical care? Those are the kinds of things that really do contribute to quality of life as people age. So those are the 8 community dimensions of the age-friendly communities program. And together, we like to say that those really form the hard and the soft infrastructure of the age-friendly communities process. So your hard infrastructure are things like your roads and infrastructure, your buildings, outdoor spaces, but all of those things fall to the wayside without a strong network of engaged people and people who care about building a community where everyone feels welcome. And so while 3 of the dimensions are really built on those physical manifestations of what a community looks like, you'll see that the remaining 5 are built around how people are interacting with one another, how they're communicating, how they're being made to feel valued, how they are supporting one another. And that really does speak to the importance of people at the heart of the age-friendly communities strategy and action planning process. So what are we here to do tonight? So now that I've kind of described the age-friendly communities planning process to you, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the vision statement and how we want to move forward with the generation of a vision statement. So a vision statement is to describe what the optimal future is for the County of Grey with respect to age-friendly community planning. So a vision statement is kind of your high-level, very ambitious statement for what you would like to see Grey County look like in the future. And so the best way to describe a vision statement, in my opinion, is really to just look at some other vision statements. So I'd like to share with you a few different vision statements from other communities that have developed age-friendly community plans in recent years. So the first vision statement that I'd like to share comes from the city of Brampton and their age-friendly strategy and action plan, which was developed in 2019. Their vision statement is, Brampton will be an age-friendly community that meets the needs of all ages and abilities. So that's Brampton's vision statement for their age-friendly strategy. The town of Midland, which produced their age-friendly community plan in 2020, reads, a community where people of all ages and abilities have opportunities to work, play, and live well. The next one I'd like to share with you is from the County of Frontenac, so a county-level municipality similar to Grey, and their vision from their age-friendly community and action plan in 2016 was the County of Frontenac supports local and inclusive communities where people can celebrate all stages of life and actively age with dignity and independence. So those are the introduction age-friendly vision statements that I'd like to share with you. And at this point, we'd like to get a little bit of your feedback. So there's two different ways that you can do this. So if you're looking at the screen, one of the things that you can do is you can actually just hold up your phone. If you open up your camera and hold up your phone to the screen, it will open up the QR code and it will take you to the Menti website here. And if you go to the Menti website, you will then be able to participate in this activity. So if you cannot see the screen or you do not have a QR code reader on your phone, you can go to menti.com, 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 and enter the code 28332209. Yeah, you missed the last digits there, Stephanie. Stephanie is putting it in the chat.
So sorry, Justin, this is Becky. I've just gone to the website through the QR code and it comes to a screen that says, are there any other themes that are missing from the vision statement? Is that where it's meant to be directing us?
It should be on the, oh, no, apparently it's on the last slide. That is totally my bad. Sorry, I'm just gonna back it up. There we go.
Cool.
Now it should work. So now if you refresh on your browser, it should work.
Yes, now we're seeing what do you like about living in Grey County?
Perfect. That's the one you want to be seeing. So you can type that in and you can submit that as you would like.
Okay, sorry to bother you again. So on the screen that says, what do you like about living in Grey County? I don't see that there's an option
There's no
to actually
text enter.
Yes, I see just a
very,
submit button.
Hang on. Oh, let's try that again. All right. There we go. Now it is working. So if you refresh your browser, now it should actually work. I apologize. I'm not sure why it was not working.
Yes, it looks like it's working now. It's good.
Yes, I am seeing it come up.
And Justin, I'm just wondering if people can maybe unmute as well and share their thoughts.
Absolutely, yeah, and we can always type them in.
Hi, it's Kathy Nuno from Grey County Accessibility. I see we have a member of the Accessibility Advisory Committee present, Andrew Edgecombe, and I'm wondering, Andrew, are you able to voice your thoughts on this so far? And so you're muted. I don't know if maybe a meeting organized. Oh, there. Okay.
Well, my name's Andrew here from Grey County here, Hanover. I completely blind, can't see nothing whatsoever. But so far, my thoughts are uh, I think two things. It is is education of business owners, because what might be accessible to somebody in a wheelchair or other disabilities might not be the same for a blind person. And what has happened here with in Hanover here lately is that uh, is is we've met with a few people. The Hanover and CNIB and I met together because there has been some accessibility issues, and and we've had to meet with the ed. So because for this this one spot where the traffic is all constant traffic, and which like food basics and stuff like that, for anybody who knows about food basics, and it's not accessible for a blind person to get in and out of there. And I use that as an example, and because there's constant traffic going in and out of there, you'd be like playing chicken with a car, playing chicken with a car, and some type of thing to get in and out of there, for example. But two things is that education is needed for business owners, and secondly, more needs to be done about transportation. Needs a really close let's just say look at things, because uh we've had our Sunday transportation taken away, and by Sage Mobility, and nobody could get to a place of worship on a Sunday morning, for example. And for example, and I think those are two of the biggest areas I see. Now, C9B has been involved, and has far as the other thing, and and they're and the structure that comes up to the area is pretty knowledgeable about stuff with blindness and stuff like that because they work with blind people all the time. So they're pretty knowledgeable, and like for example, Tim Hortons is a social gathering place. It is if our Tim Hortons are not accessible, then we have made it pretty hard for somebody to get in there to socialize, and 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 just stuff like that. I say off the top of my head right now.
Thank you for, yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experience, Andrew. And I think a lot of what you're mentioning there in your lived experience, I think is very much closely related to how how we want to move forward with this project, in that addressing the physical infrastructure deficiencies, but then also the social infrastructure, and starting to change culture and change hearts and minds as well. So I do want to just highlight. I'll just quickly switch my screen share and show you guys where we're at in terms of what we got from the what we like about living in Grey County, so that people can see. So you see we had friendly people, diversity of urban areas, community, nature, hiking, fresh water, lots of parks and trails, quality of life. So a lot of the kind of access to those natural amenities definitely came up high. So the next slide that we're gonna go through here is I'd like to introduce you guys to the vision statements and some of the ideas that people came up with in terms of our previous sessions. And so what we have is we've got kind of a scale of 1 to 5 for each of the following metrics. And I'd like you to just tell us how strongly you agree that each of these should be prioritized as we move through the plan. So the questions that we're asking are inclusivity, welcoming, equitable opportunities to participate, prioritizing resources and leadership, community safety and wellness, and healthy. So those are the ones on this slide. There's another slide of these after. So we'll just go through this for a minute or two. Andrew, are you able to access these with a screen reader? I've never used these with someone who's visually impaired with the Menti program. So I'd really love your feedback on this as well.
So far I haven't gotten it to take my code yet.
Do you want me to try the code again? Do you want me to give you the code?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're on menti.com, the code is 2833 2209.
it just brought up a thing that talks about how important is the metrics to whatever.
Yeah, so that you're on the right slide there. And so there's, I'm not, yeah, no, I'm realizing that this is probably not a very welcoming process for someone with a visual impairment, and I will apologize in advance for that, because it does require kind of like a hovering. To be able to select. One of the things that we will do after this meeting is we'll be circulating a different version of this survey, which will be done in just on the project website, and it's much more accessible with screen readers. So you don't have to provide your feedback right now. We'll be able to, we're going to be doing some verbal feedback. We're going to be doing just kind of talking through a few things. So I wouldn't worry too much about this activity, Andrew.
Yeah.
We'll be able to, we'll have more opportunities. So I'm just going to show the results here. Inclusivity comes up pretty high. Equitable opportunities to participate comes up very high. Community safety and wellness comes out right at the top with 2 5s. So, you know, we're seeing that the inclusivity, equitable opportunities, and community safety and wellness emerge as the key elements. So the next ones, these are some of the other kind of themes and ideas that were generated through our initial workshops for the visioning, and that is thriving, balance, sustaining and supporting independence, resilient, and generational acceptance and respect. So just take a couple minutes here for folks to complete this one, and then we can move on. I'm just going to stop my share for a second just to make sure that everything is going okay on the live stream side.
Okay, Kathy Nuno here. I have to say that I'm not exactly understanding these various elements and how they impact developing the plan.
So these, Kathy, are some of the elements that were the themes in terms of developing a vision. So these were the priority kind of ideas and themes and topics that came out as we held our initial workshops. So these are the ones that came out when we had our steering committee workshop, or our stakeholder committee workshop rather, when we had our municipal stakeholder workshop, and then when we had our agencies and partners workshop. So these were kind of the key themes that came out as part of that conversation. So we ran through a number of different exercises to identify the key themes, and these were the ones that were identified. And then you'll see how they fed into the vision statements in a moment here, and we'll get to the vision statements that were created, and then we can start to think through as a group here on the call what we might want to add or what we might want to change about the vision statements that have already been developed.
Okay, so the balance, the balance metric, is that work-life balance, balance of, I just don't understand. I don't understand.
It was, I will say that in terms of that workshop, I think that the balance term was challenging to define, and pinned down. But it was, and you'll see how it kind of ended up into the, I'll show you here in the visions, but if it doesn't resonate with you, then it doesn't resonate with you.
Okay,
And
well,
I would vote it low.
I'm just not following. So resilient, for example, the resilience metric, what is it measuring? How resilient people are in the community, how resilient the plan is? Like
Yeah, and I guess that's, you know, one of the challenges of presenting themes from other discussions in this format. And I have to admit, I mean, we usually kind of structure these in such a way that is meant to, I guess, kind of have like a larger group, so that we can kind of keep the conversation moving without getting bogged down in the details. So one of the challenges here is that, you know, we are trying to like go by a conversation that took us almost 2 hours in these groups. And so in terms of the resilience, in one group, it actually came up twice. In one group, it was like the resilience of people, and in the other group, it was speaking more about climate resilience. And so it kind of could mean either.
yeah. I don't think I'm going to be able to complete this section.
Okay, fine. I will just, you know what, I'll just close it off and we'll go on to the next and we'll see what the vision statements look like. And maybe that will help out. I think that really does show the process a little bit more. So I'm going to share my screen again here and I'm going to go through the draft vision statements as they were prepared. So the first vision statement that was generated was that Grey County will be an age-friendly, inclusive, and healthy community where everyone is respected and has access to opportunities to participate in all aspects of daily life with dignity and independence. So that was the first vision statement that was generated by our groups. The second vision statement that was generated by our groups, and don't worry, I will put all of these on the screen for you together. The second vision statement that was generated is Grey County will create inclusive opportunities for all ages in all stages of life to thrive and have balance within our communities. And then the final vision statement that was generated was all communities in Grey County will work together to create inclusive opportunities for people in all stages of life to thrive physically, economically, and spiritually. So those are the three vision statements that were generated. And now I'm going to move over and I'll ask you which one you prefer. And this is a ranking opportunity. So you actually get to rank which one you prefer. So you can rank them first, second, and third. I'm going to do a new share here so that you can see all three of the vision statements at once. So I will read them aloud again, just for everyone's benefit. So the first vision was Grey County will be an age-friendly, inclusive, and healthy community where everyone is respected and has access to opportunities to participate in all aspects of daily life with dignity and independence. The second was Grey County will create inclusive opportunities for all ages in all stages of life to thrive and have balance within our communities. And then the final was all communities in Grey County will work together to create inclusive opportunities for people in all stages of life to thrive physically, economically, and spiritually. So we'll leave those up for a moment while people cast their votes.
I wonder if Andrew just wants to cast his vote verbally, if that's possible.
Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. If you would like to, we are totally open to that. And if you would like to, you can also just send it in the chat on Zoom if you don't want to voice that publicly in the recorded session. Okay. So I'm gonna share my screen on the Menti presentation here to show you guys what came out. So the preferred vision statement was vision statement number 1, which I will pull up on the screen as we go forward. But I'll put all 3 of them up. And what I'd like to ask you in the next question is, are there any themes or other elements that you feel are missing from these vision statements? So I'm just going to set up the share on the 3 vision statements, and I'll leave this open for conversation. Are there any aspects of life in Grey County that you feel are missing from these vision statements? And if there are, you can either put them in the Menti, or you can always speak up and unmute yourself and let us know. And are there any aspects of each of these that you like, that you'd like to move around, that you'd like to add to? What are the different parts of these different visions that you like?
Becky, I'm going to put you on the spot because it's your first visioning workshop. Curious to hear some of your thoughts.
Sure. So my preferred one there was actually the third one. And there's some things that I like about it and some things I would probably change, but I definitely like, they all mention inclusive, which I think is definitely a key important word for me. But the reason I like the third one is just because of the physically, economically, and spiritually element. And I think a lot of time we kind of get fixated on some of these physical and economical actions that we can put in place, but I think sort of the spiritual element as well, and not necessarily from a religious standpoint, but just sort of taking into account someone's mental health and sort of state of being and wellness. I think that's quite a nice word that captures that. And the other vision statements from the other communities that you had outlined before, one word that really caught my attention from them was the one that had like celebration of aging, or of something like that, which I thought was quite a nice way of framing it as well. And that hadn't really been captured in these 3, but I thought that had kind of stood out for me.
Mm-hmm. That was the County of Frontenac. And so that one said, the County of Frontenac supports local and inclusive communities where people can celebrate all ages of life and actively age with dignity and independence. That was theirs.
And I don't know if I may ask, I see that there is another caller on the line that I don't believe that we've heard from, and I wonder if we could perhaps call on that person or encourage them to speak if they would like.
So the 512 number is the phone bridge.
Oh, okay, sorry.
But there is someone that I see that's connected. And if I can unmute them from here and we can hear from them. I think they can unmute themselves as well. I have not chosen to mute people. I'll just, it seems
Can you hear
as
me?
though, yes, we can.
Okay, it's Michael Scherson from a counselor here in Southgate, so I'm just listening in.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us, Counselor. We've had a lot of interest from Southgate, so it's wonderful that you're on the line.
Yeah, we've got a lot of growth in this area, and the real estate prices are really high, so it's definitely hard for young people, and the wages don't match, so they got to find employment. So yeah, it's definitely a problem throughout Grey County. So we're interested in anything that's going on, for sure.
So, well, we're glad you could be here. Okay, well, if we have any other comments on these visions, what I'd like to propose is that we take a shot at maybe modifying one or two or even all three of these to get us to a place, or combining them or cutting them up and combining them into something that you guys think, the folks that are on the call and that are connected here, combining them into something that works for a vision statement for the people that are connected to this. So, we've got, at this point, we've got, we're here for another hour if you want us to be. So we are ready to kind of workshop this through as much as you would prefer, and to try and come up with a vision statement that works for for the folks that are part of this engagement. So I will throw it out to anyone out there if they would like to propose any changes. Yeah, please do feel free.
Okay, I in the spirit of manifesting positive realities, I think that anything that you talk about in the future that will happen isn't happening now. So instead of will be, I'd rather see words like promotes or supports instead of will be.
Okay. So that you'd prefer on here for the, I'm assuming you want to kind of work with number one here?
Well, any of them. So the second one says will create. So instead of will create, supports or fosters. Just anything that's saying that it's happening like now instead of tomorrow, because tomorrow is always a day away.
Yeah, I think she means, so basically getting rid of the word will. Sorry, Kathy, I don't want to misinterpret what you're saying, but just so it'll say Grey County promotes an age-friendly, or Grey County supports, instead of saying will support. Is that what you mean?
Yes, exactly.
We'll kind of make it more action oriented.
Yeah, this came up when we were doing some other visioning sessions where it's, do you speak about it in a present tense in that you're actively doing it today, versus, as Kathy's mentioned, maybe just the future tense, but when does that future start?
Arrive, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think those are good points you brought up, Kath.
Andrew, is there anything that you feel like we have missed in these vision statements? Anything that jumped out to you while you were listening and hearing us speak about these? Not to put you on the spot, and if there's nothing, that's fine.
can't think of anything right now.
And that's totally, I mean, I think that we will, like I say, we will, we'll be kind of circulating some additional opportunities for people to provide comment and feedback on things that they felt might be missing from these vision statements. One of the things that came in on the Menti tool was the term consistency. So I'm not sure if you feel like the vision statements are inconsistent, or if you think that having consistency across the county is the thing that is missing. But I mean, obviously, I think that in any county level discussion, having consistently applied age-friendly lenses across the municipalities is going to be really important, because people don't just live their lives in one place. And I think we all realize that.
Yeah, that would have been me, Kathy, Justin, with about the consistency. And I think where I'm coming from is in order to reliability and consistency and sustainability, because as Andrew was saying, all of a sudden now the bus service is cut on Sundays and they're having trouble getting to the places of worship. I think we have to be very mindful that whatever the vision is, that we can keep it going so that people can rely on it and count on it.
Right. So it's not just something that happens when there's budget or it's convenient. It's something that is foundational to how the county operates.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So do we want to take I was kind of thinking that this last one here, if you want to kind of make it more action oriented, is that the final vision statement, which reads, all communities in Grey County, and now I've changed it to say all communities in Grey County work together to create inclusive opportunities for people in all stages of life to thrive physically, economically, and spiritually. I'm gonna get rid of that extra comma because that's bothering me as a grammar nerd.
And another reason I kind of like the third one is because it says all communities in Grey County, and it kind of, I don't know if all communities is necessarily the best term, but it kind of positions people as like the actors in it. Whereas the other ones, just by starting as Grey County, I think sometimes, we're talking about the region, but it's kind of hard to think of Grey County as individual people who are actually being active in maintaining these types of visions. So obviously there's the institutional body that is Grey County, and that is attempting to create these visions or these actions through this vision statement. But I think also kind of looking at everyone who lives here as individual actors who are also participating in it, I think is also good.
We had those discussions, and I think that is such a valuable piece to look at is, how are we speaking about the county of Grey? Because you're exactly right. I mean, Grey County is a county that's made up of many different communities, whether you're defining those as the local area municipalities, or you're defining them as simply groups of people who self-identify together. There are so many different ways to define the communities of Grey County. And I think that I think initially in the municipal partners one, I think this one up here, we had actually had the communities in Grey County was part of it. And then I think it ended up getting pulled out. And then it was interesting to me that when we were having another visioning, it got kind of added back in. And so it's, it's definitely one of those elements where yeah, it's neat to see how it kind of weaves its way around. But I agree with you that, you know, I think when we're speaking about a county level government, you know, and a county full of communities, I think it works to try and define those separately, but together in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyone else want to take a stab at revising a vision statement here? I think
Yeah, if there's any additional words that maybe are missing that we could look to include, such as celebrate. I've been trying to think of wordsmithing some of the existing vision statements to include that word, and nothing has come across very succinctly.
Yeah, no,
Doesn't sound right. All communities will celebrate in Great County.
I think we all just need some celebration after so long and being in COVID.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely ready to celebrate at some point in the whenever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess my daughter's birthday's coming up, so I get to do that. Close enough. Nothing like celebrating in a room full of 6-year-olds.
I guess I'm just wondering about the word inclusive. Just checking in with Andrew, Kathy. I know there were some comments around using the word accessible, and as to whether or not that captures the true intent of what we're aiming here. So yeah, I'm just not certain. Does the word inclusive encompass all ages, all abilities, or is there maybe something else we could consider?
And I guess if the you know, if the answer is that inclusive is the preferred term, then that's great too. We're happy to have got it right.
It's a good thing to think about. I like all of the words. So just to choose right now at the moment, I mean, it's important to be inclusive, and it's important to consider all abilities. But to narrow it down to the most concise way of saying that, I think right at this second, it's not coming to me.
I think some of the feedback that we had was that accessible was a narrower term than inclusive. And if that's, and I just want to make sure that we're vetting that through the community.
Because, well, accessible means different things to different people. Like accessible to wheelchair persons or other disabilities doesn't necessarily mean it may not be accessible to blind people, for example. And how do you fit that into the community? That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So Andrew, do you like the word inclusive?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like we're getting closer to a final vision statement here, Stephanie, which is good news.
Agreed.
Yeah, and you know, the nice thing about this process is that, you know, the vision statement really doesn't you know, it doesn't necessarily stay static. We will revise and revisit it as we go through and kind of come back at the end of the project and make sure, you know, does what we've done and what we've heard through this entire process, does it align with what the initial vision statement was, or have things changed? Do we need to add elements? Do we need to emphasize different parts of it in different ways? So those are kind of the things that we'll be doing as we move forward. And those are the types of things that you can expect to see from this project as we go. So if there's kind of agreement, then I would like to just kind of put it to the group kind of one more time to just, let's take a quick straw poll of those who haven't seen these before, and we'll go with we'll try and arrive at a decision about which one is the preferred. So the first vision, which we've kind of tweaked a little bit, is Grey County promotes an age-friendly, inclusive, and healthy community where everyone is respected and has access to opportunities to participate in all aspects of daily life with dignity and independence. The next one is Grey County supports inclusive opportunities for all ages in all stages of life to thrive and have balance within our communities. And then the third one is all communities in Grey County work together to create inclusive opportunities for people in all stages of life to thrive physically, economically, and spiritually. So those are the three different vision statements we've kind of tweaked and massaged through this little exercise. And I think the best way for us to review those would be maybe if we just want to, I can go back to the Menti tool, or we can just kind of put them in the chat or say our choice, 1, 2, or 3.
Justin,
yes, Karen.
I really resonated with Becky's thoughts about adding in communities.
Yeah.
What would happen if we added in communities after Grey County in statements 1 and 2?
So you'd like to add
Grey County communities promote. And then you take the S off of promotes. And support. Yeah. Now I vote for all of them.
Can't do that. Against the rules. You only get one vote. No, and I think that I think it makes sense that these are getting kind of closer and closer to a final, like, challenging decision, because I think that they do reflect like a similar desire, but it's I guess the bigger piece here is, to what degree do you kind of like keep it like more big and broad, or to what degree do you kind of like keep it short and sweet and succinct? Because
Right.
I think like vision 1 here, Grey County communities promote an age-friendly, inclusive, and healthy community where everyone is respected and has opportunities to participate in all aspects of daily life with dignity and independence. It covers a lot of ground. It also covers a lot of words.
Yeah.
Whereas
Thing too, now I'm going to digress. So this is Grey County's vision statement for age-friendly community. And now I'm wondering, do we even have the authority to speak for all Grey County communities? Maybe we do. Sorry, thinking out loud there.
yeah, that's good. I mean, that's a good question as part of this process, for sure.
And I think what we had talked about as well is just the application of this plan and strategy going forward. It has and will be created at Grey County, but the intentions are for it to be a community plan. And yeah, to ensure that there's multiple stakeholders, members of the public, everyone has some form of ownership of the action items that will be outlined. And so, yeah, you raise a good point, Kathy. I think maybe just thinking about that further and whether or not we need to revise. But I do feel the intent here is to really capture all of Grey County and step out of the institution, the government of Grey County.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but how do we word that? Like now I've made those both awkward because now both of those first two ones have communities in there twice. It's awkward now. I think we need to undo what I suggested, Justin.
Is there another word for communities? I've also been trying to think of something. I think communities is sort of the best kind of catch-all for different, referring to sort of different, groups of people, because it's not necessarily residents, because, we don't want just residents to be responding or acting in this way. It's sort of everyone who's a part of Grey County.
Mm-hmm. Well, all that being said, I think I vote for number 3.
Me too.
Yeah, likewise, if we're still doing the polling, Justin.
Yeah, we can't see why not. Okay.
Yeah, I think I just like it because it's also, there's a lot of things I like about it. I like the word thrive. I like sort of the call to action of like working together. I like the sort of like human centeredness of it. Yeah.
One of the things that came up after the first workshop that we had about the vision was actually a discussion that thrive should have been included in the first kind of vision. In this vision, someone really wanted to see the word thrive in there, and I think that it does speak to a higher level of ambition when it comes to the type of planning that we're doing here. Like to thrive is much more than simply just to be,
maintain
right?
well-being. Yeah.
Yeah, it's to grow and develop and continue to build. And that's, I think, definitely it's a strong word for a vision statement. Great. Okay. Well, with the permission of the callers, I would like to continue on and move to kind of wrap up and provide some next steps and give everyone a half hour of their evening back, another half hour of it looks like it's kind of clearing. It's clearing where I am, at least. It looks like the crazy storms are blowing over. So I will just go back to my PowerPoint. If you'll give me a moment here. And I'm just going to zip to the end here. And so I just wanted to highlight to folks that this is the last of our visioning workshops. So we've done 3 to date. This is our 4th. And we're going to be moving on into some focus groups with key audiences and partners at the county to really gain an in-depth understanding of the lived experiences of people within the county. We're going to be running a series of community conversations workshops that's going to run through August and maybe into a little bit of September. and that's going to be focused on each of those community conversation workshops is going to be focused on 2 dimensions of the 8 age-friendly dimensions that I outlined earlier in the presentation. And those are really going to be an opportunity to kind of dig in on those specific topics. So if you're interested in communication, if you're interested in housing, those are going to be the opportunities for you to really kind of join and dig in and provide your input on that in a really meaningful way. And then we're going to do a wrap up of the first phase of the process with the Facebook Live chat, where we're just going to kind of host kind of an online discussion. It'll be like kind of an Ask Me Anything format, where we'll just be here to answer your questions about the age-friendly planning process, tell you a little bit about what we're doing, what we've done so far, and presenting our vision and the strategy that's going to be moving forward. Once we get into phase 2, that's when we start to talk about the action plan, where the rubber really starts to hit the road, where we're really thinking about how we're going to be moving forward with the different aspects of the age-friendly community strategy, how we're going to be building those partnerships and building additional capacity within the county. And there will be an online survey, a second online survey. We're missing the online survey on this page, but the online survey will be launched in the coming weeks as well. And that's going to be a great opportunity for folks to provide their feedback about what's really working well in the community and the different aspects that are making it more challenging for people within the community. And once we have those gaps identified, it becomes a lot easier for us to start to identify the priority actions that will form the action plan as we move forward. So with that, I will turn it over to Stephanie to say thanks and just ask if there's any questions. You know, we are here and we can happily field those if you would like.
For sure. Thanks, Justin. And thank you, Kathy, Andrew, and Michael for joining us this evening. We do really appreciate your input and the conversation that took place today and throughout the various upcoming engagement sessions that Justin has outlined. Kathy, I know you're connected to the Accessibility Advisory Committee, as well as Andrew, and then Michael, but it would be helpful to know if there are certain delivery methods in which we're looking to connect with individuals that are more accessible and obtainable by folks. So yeah, certainly reach out. My contact information is provided just on the screen. Happy to hear alternative ways and ways in which we can ensure we're reaching all populations with the upcoming series of engagement. But yes, again, thank you so much for participating, and thank you, Justin, Erica, Becky.
Yeah, it was nice to be part of your conversations, guys. Well done so far.
Thanks for being here. Okay. Well, if there's any questions, we can take them now. And if not, then we'll say good evening.